I recently clocked over 100 hours in Enshrouded, and I think it's pretty difficult to get enough of this game, while the more you progress in it, the more overwhelming it becomes how many different types of resources there are to collect. And I feel you, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to find that specific resource you need. My name is Roryam, and in today's follow-up guide we're gonna cover all the different resources you're gonna need in Enshrouded. We're gonna process all sorts of materials so you can craft yourself some endgame gear and so much more. So ladies and gentlemen, what are we waiting for? Let's get right to it. I quickly want to say a huge thanks to you guys, to every single one of you who recently joined the channel and for the amazing comments, feedback on my previous videos. I work pretty hard on projects like these. This one especially took a lot of time, so it would be amazing if you can take 1 second of your time, hit that like button, and also share your thoughts about the guide in the comments down below. If you have any questions or video suggestions, be sure to leave them right there as well. Maybe you even found a better farm spot to find a specific resource. All that is very welcome in the comment section. Anyways, let's check out the farms. Many materials to talk about, so once again I'm gonna share timestamps in the description so you can easily find exactly what you need. Let's actually begin with amber, a resource heavily requested by the community as many people seem to have trouble finding this one. I'm gonna be honest, it also took me like over 10 hours to find it, while it's actually super simple to do so. So what you want to do is open up your map and quick travel to the ancient spire Ravelwood, as from here you can fly to the northeast into the Shroud, and this will already bring you to an amazing deposit where you can pick up a ton of this resource. So this is the first place which I recommend you to go to, as right here you can start mining it right off the bat. With some decent mining upgrades, you'll be able to break this very quickly and get your hands on all the amber you will ever need. If you fly a little bit more to the north, well, this is a place where you can find plenty more amber in the exact same shroud system, basically. At the very edges of it, if I open up the map, you can see that right here we have plenty more nodes. After mining some of it, you can see that we now have 43. So I think that's going to be more than enough for your adventures ahead. The next thing, which I already covered in my previous guide, is the water. Well, this is actually scooped up from water wells. So every time when you do that, you will get like 5, but then you're gonna have to wait for respawns. To make this a little bit easier, what you can do is pick up the water well and place it afterwards, because this basically resets the process, so you can do this infinitely to get your hands on as much of the water as you like. Let's do that one more time. As you can see, we keep getting our hands on a ton of water. Seems like after a point it's only going to be 3 instead of 5, but that already gives us more than enough to craft whatever I want to have. Now we're going to start working our way to the next biome, the Nomad Highlands. So we're currently standing at the Pillars of Creation, the very top of it, where I very much recommend you to build a checkpoint, let's say, which I already covered in my previous guide, how to get here from this position for tin. What you want to do is deploy your glider and fly straight to the north. But this is the place you want to focus on, the Mining Rift, which is also southeast of the capital, where you were to fight Pike, basically. But this is where you will find this beautiful mine, the Mining Rift. This place is filled with little bugsters, which I very much recommend you to take out first, as they can be extremely annoying when mining here. But this is where you can find the tin. So if you start swinging your pickaxe, look at that, you will get your hands on the tin ore. Again, guys, I very much recommend you to pick up a couple talents to make this a lot more efficient, especially in terms of breaking nodes. If you have the mason, you will do this 30% faster, reduce durability 50% slower, and most importantly, when you harvest the resources, you have a 10% chance to gain additional resource. Sometimes I actually get 2 because of this perk, which actually makes everything so much better. Especially because you're gonna need a lot of this resource, so be sure to take enough with you, easily over 100, to have enough. And since the sun is setting, this is also going to be the perfect moment to talk about the next resource in line, which I very much recommend you to pick up during nighttime, as this is going to make it so much easier to spot where it is. So let's quickly fast forward the time. Some of you are probably thinking like, ooh, this is looking pretty scary, dangerous, but at the same time, it's actually pretty safe. This indicates the biomes where you want to be, as this is where you can find these pretty big glowing mushrooms with a green color at the Umber Hollow, most primarily. If you fell these, you will find this nice shiny mint mushroom meat, the next resource for a wide variety of crafts. You can also fell these smaller mushroom sacks, basically, which also give the resource, well, this is not going to be a lot. I absolutely love flying in the Umber Hollow itself, this pretty big shroud, of course, for which you're going to need a higher shrine level or flame altar. But if I open up the map, well, this is basically what you want to focus on. Northeast of the Pillars of Creation, or east basically, where we also have the Ruined Bridge, Lupa's Lair, well, this is where you have an insane amount of all these mushrooms. This is not the only reason why we're searching in this specific area, as right here you can also find a specific mob, which drops another important resource. If you use your glider, you can find these in no time, but this is basically the type of mob you want to focus on. They're pretty annoying, while if you just hit him a couple times and then dash or roll backwards, well, it's going to be pretty easy to dodge those attacks. Or even easier, take out your bow and just keep dashing away from their attacks. Be careful for the explosion after their death, but when you take them out, look at that. This will also give you the Ammonia Glands, which are also required for certain crafts, including the Shroud Sacks, which is nice, so you no longer have to visit the first biome to get your hands on all this resource. Next up, we're gonna fly to a place which I think is pretty interesting to pick up a lot of different resources. All sorts of plants which you're gonna need for plenty of different crafts in the game. So if you fly southeast of the Pillars of Creation, or you could also use the ancient spire of the Low Meadows, if we quickly open up the map, well, this is where we're currently at. Right here we have this ledge basically with a lot of different plants. The first one is the bell pepper. So this is something you will find all over this biome, but if you pick it up, it's a pretty nice one, which gives you +2 dex. An amazing stat which increases your ranged damage by 5 per attribute point, but you can actually do a lot more with this one when you cook it. If we walk down the hill, there is a lot more to talk about right here. First off, we have Rooibos. In real life, I like to drink Rooibos tea, which you can use for different crafts at the farmer or cooking pot in general, so be sure to pick it up. Has those yellow flowers on it, and right here we also have that sweet sugarcane. Another amazing type of snack, which gives you +15 stamina recharge, which now basically replaces the honey which we found in the previous biome. Does the exact same thing, while there is an even better one we're going to talk about later in this video. I still miss one specific plant though, which I use for my personal build. I think it's an amazing one to quickly gain some mana, which is the sage. So if I quickly open up my inventory, this one gives +4 spirits. So that's something that can boost your maximum mana. There we go. That's the one I'm talking about. You basically want to search for the plants with the purple flowers. From a distance, they also look a little bit like lavender, basically. But that is what will give you 2 sage each time you will harvest them. You can also find this plant. Pretty easy to miss, but if you chop them down, you will basically get aloe. This is also something you're going to need for all sorts of things in the alchemy tab. For the next resource in line, I like to use the Ancient Spire Nomad Highlands Quick Travel, as this brings us pretty close to this location. A barn where, you guessed it, we can pick up some straw. So here we go. The Bounty Barn, which is found east of the Umber Hollow, in which we farmed the Ammonia Glands earlier, but this is also east of the Lupa's Lair and the Ruined Bridge. This place, the Bounty Barn, well, comes with a lot of the straw. When you harvest this resource, you will not only get the straw itself, but also wheat grains, which can now also be used to place the straw fields in your own base. So, GG. The straw itself, though, I think is an amazing resource to also craft yourself the straw and the tart straw roof blocks, as they, I think, make up for an amazing type of roof, which you can use to decorate a pretty cool Viking village. Oh, and guys, I almost forgot. Fly back to the bounty barn, as this is where you can find plenty more of the plants right here, which I talked about earlier. So an amazing place to quickly pick those up. Be careful though, if you fight the spiders, well, you'll remove every single one of them in no time. And even more important, right next to the barn, you can actually find these all over the Nomad Highlands at this specific location where you have this big arch behind you. Well, this is also where you can find one of these dens. The saber cat dens, basically. Right now it's guarding the entrance, but it can't even get inside. That's hilarious. Anyways, if you mine this resource, I think it's probably the best or most efficient way to quickly get your hands on twigs. Remember the talents which I talked about earlier to make this even more efficient? Well, this is definitely gonna be faster than finding twigs in the wild. Breaking plants, I think, is super tedious to do, while right now you can just, I don't know, sip your coffee and mine for a couple minutes to get your hands on all the twigs you will ever need for your future crafts. Anyways, let's quick travel back to the Pillars of Creation. Talk about another resource which we haven't covered in my previous guide, but this one is going to be pretty important for your adventures as well. Probably also an amazing place to take out a couple wolves, but if I quickly open up the map, well, this is where we currently are, right in between the Pillars of Creation and the Ancient Spire Low Meadows. So it's actually in the previous biome, but these can only be harvested during the night. So if you collect these, I think the absolute best spot to do so, you will get fireflies. I mean, you can just keep running around in this area with a combo of your glider. You'll be able to pick these up even faster. But here we go. We just pick up one firefly pack after the other. So for this farm, you simply want to follow the lights. Into the fields or into the forest, doesn't matter. This is without doubt one of the best places to pick up a ton of fireflies in no time. Voila, now we have 50 twigs and 20 fireflies, a lot better. Anyways, for the next one, we're gonna travel to the Ancient Spire of Nomad Highlands, as I think this is the absolute best quick travel to very quickly pick up this resource. And you can already see it right in front of us. If I open up the map, it's very visible on it as well. These are the fossilized bones. Giant skeletons on the map, which if you mine them will give you that sweet fossilized bone material as well, which you're gonna need for different crafts, also to strengthen your flame, but most importantly to craft arrows. So we just picked up a ton of twigs. With these fossilized bones, you can also make the fossilized arrows, which I think are one of the easier ones to craft, as the resource is pretty easy to get your hands on. You don't have to do any smelting or processing ores. Honestly, I think it's pretty difficult to miss this resource. It's even sticking out of the shroud every now and then, so you can pick him up basically anywhere in the world, especially near the Kindle Waste quick travel, which I'm standing on right now. So nice, now we got our hands on a ton of the fossilized bone. Well, if you run out of feathers, ladies and gentlemen, this is pretty annoying as well. As for pretty much all the endgame arrow crafting, you're gonna need a ton of this. So let's start hunting some birds. Pillars of Creation. Then I like to fly straight to the south, once again to that Surat's Rest. So if we fly over this area, there is a pretty big chance we're gonna check out some birds in this zone. Oh, they're right there. So amazing. If you take these out, they usually come with pretty big packs. Well, they drop not only the feathers, but also raw bird meat. Let's go. This is where you want to be. Surat's Rest, the Elixir Well, and east of the Ancient Spire Low Meadows. If you are already in the end game though, it's going to become even easier to hunt for this resource. I'm gonna be honest though, these are my absolute most hated creatures in the game as of today. Not because of their behavior, but they simply make so much noise. It's almost impossible to hear myself thinking. As you can see, they are very hostile and they attack whatever they come across. But let's quickly take one down to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So this one right here drops 2 feathers, 2 raw bird meat, as well as some bones. But yeah, back to the bird hunting. Be sure to aim for their heads. I think it's amazing to shoot them out of the skies with bow and arrow, as they go down pretty quickly. Since we're already in the desert, there's another resource you want to focus on, and that's basically these palm trees. as if you fell them, you will get not only the palm wood logs, but also Yucca Fruit. I think an amazing type of food which you can eat for some nice health regen and stamina recharge. But if you grill it at the farmer, you actually get plus 20 stamina recharge, which is much more efficient in comparison with the sugarcane we picked up earlier. That's 15, same as the honey. But be sure to pick up as many of these as possible because they're going to make your adventures so much easier. In the desert, you will also come across scorpions. If you take those out, you will not only find poison sacs, but also scales, hardened scales of wild animals. And some say they are as hard as stone, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, be careful as they are, poisonous. For the next farm, let's quickly travel back to the Kindle Waste Quick Travel and fly towards the north, as this is a place where you can pick up so many different resources. East Lapis, where we can, you guessed it, also pick up Lapis, but plenty other resources. So if we land on the road west of the village, this is where you will find a lot of scorpions. So if you take those out, well, you're gonna have all those hardened skills in no time. This is also where you can find a ton of the saffron. So saffron is a rare herb, also required to strengthen the flame, can be used for all sorts of things. But this is without doubt one of my favorite farm spots for them, as you can find literally dozens of them if you just keep running from one spawn point to the next. I mean, we see an infinite amount of these in our surroundings. So I think, it's just a perfect place to quickly pick them up. And also these turtle creatures. They're pretty resistant to all sorts of damage. I like to use my bow. Just aim for the lower part of their heads. This takes them down pretty quickly. They drop the raw sand digger meat. Also a type of meat which you can grill at the campfire or your fire pit, basically, to make some nice snacks, but also 5 skills. So the sand diggers, I think, are amazing to pick up both food and the skills. While right now, what we're gonna do is walk to this specific spot northwest of the East Lapis, as if we jump down right here, well, this is where you will have a nice sulfur mine. There are plenty of sulfur mines in the Kindle Wastes area, but I think this is a really nice one as it comes with a ton of sulfur. So if you mine for like a minute, well, you have a ton of this resource. Look at that, we just got our hands on 50. I think that's going to be more than enough. Well, right now we also want to have the lapis, which is a pretty precious resource, also found in this area. I remember picking up a nice amount of these a little bit more to the southwest of this town. I mean, you can already spot a ton of the sulfur at the edges of walls, but this is also where you can find the lapis itself. So there we have more. This though is where you have the lapis. If I open up the map, that's basically where we are. Take out your pickaxe and start swinging. Well, this is where we will get that sweet resource. This one is slightly more difficult to break, so you're gonna have to spend quite some time mining the resource. So there we go. We just got our hands on a nice amount of lapis, but also the sandstone. So I don't think this is a wonder. You can find it all over the place. Both sand and sandstone can be mined if you either break the walls or the floor. And ooh, look at that, we even found some lapis underneath the sand right here. So definitely interesting to keep your eyes open for this material. You can also come across plenty of desert flowers in the desert, which isn't anything too special, but also an ingredient used in crafting different recipes. In the charcoal kiln, you can browse through the recipes and pick up the wood acid. This is something you're gonna need to basically process all sorts of ore, which you can do, of course, with a smelter. So if we quickly check out the tin, for this, you're gonna need the wooden acid. For the bronze, you're gonna need copper and tin, of course. While for glass, you're gonna need the sand, which we picked up earlier as well. Iron bars. Oh, yes. One of the most important resources for the end game. So for this one, what you want to do is make your way to a specific mining area, which you can find also in the Kindle Wastes. So what you want to do is fly to the Shroud Root or the Ridgeback Mine, which is southwest of the Ancient Spire Kindle Waste itself. And I think this is an amazing place to also pick up some legendaries. So let's quickly land right here and look to this specific marker which I've placed. It's actually one of my favorite legendary gear farming spots, as this is where you can find one of those encrusted chests. If you open it up, you have a very high chance of finding some of the best loot in the game. We just found an epic, but it can very much be a legendary. I think you have like 30 to 40% chance to find it. Anyways, let's take out this fella right here, as this is where we can also start mining the iron. Look at that. You want to be careful in this area, as there can also be a boss. It seems like, wow, this one is now on a holiday, or actually, it's currently fighting with one of those dragon birds. Yeah, man, let's grab some popcorn and let's quickly check this out. So be sure to pick up enough of this resource, which you're going to then bring to your base to process it into the iron bars, which are required to then not only make the iron axe, but also the iron pickaxe, the best currently available in the early access, but also iron ore itself required to strengthen your flame in the base. Next up, we have fabric, which you can make at the loom once you've unlocked this, for which you're gonna need 5 linen. We already know that 1 linen can be made with 2 flax at the hand spindle, which in other words, yeah, is going to require you to farm a ton of flax. So in that case, I think it's gonna become a little bit more interesting to start working on a farm, which I myself haven't done yet. But yeah, let's quickly get back to the flax part. So if you want to pick up flax, you want to be in the very first biome of the world, near the Ancient Spire quick travel of Revelwood. So this is where I just picked up 4 flax. But yeah, if I open up the map right now, you can see that I'm very close to the lush pasture southeast of the Ancient Spire Revelwood. This is where I picked up 4 of the flax. You can pick up even more flax at this area, walking towards the Fonsong Frontier. I mean, this place is literally filled with the flax, so an amazing place to quickly pick it up. I'll work on a farming guide in the future, but this is basically where you want to throw in all the flax to make your own linen. And yes, after you've done that, you want to throw all the linen into the loom to make fabric, which is going to take another 2 minutes. So be sure to stock plenty of the resources inside this crafting station when you're out there on an adventure or exploring the world. Anyways, here we go. We now have 1 fabric. If you pick that up, you will unlock the wall banner and more things at the carpenter, which I think are some pretty nice new blueprints to decorate your base. We've got all sorts of banners right here, for which you're gonna need different colored fabrics as well. So now you're probably thinking, how do I color it? Well, for this, you want to be at the hunter, Athalan, who actually gives you access to the resource right here. Now we can make padding, basic ingredient for all advanced armor, but also the red fabric, which you can do with the sulfur we covered earlier, the blue fabric, which we can do with indigo from the previous biomes, yellow fabric with saffron, and green fabric with mint mushroom meat. So, you know what? Let's quickly cover the indigo, as this is something from my previous guide, but I like to show it to you guys as well. So what we're gonna do is travel back to that place where we picked up the flax earlier, as I think this is a pretty nice spot to also pick up the indigo plants. Look at that. So right here we have 3 right next to each other, 4 actually. Check it out. So if I open up the map, this is exactly where we are currently at. Ancient Spire Revelwood. There is 1 more plant which I like to talk about, which I only found at this specific location. So I have my base right here in the very center basically of the starter biome. But if I glide to the north from this specific place, well, this is where you will find the Corncob. Check it out. So in our inventory, we now have 6 because each time you harvest it, you will get 3. But you can also use this to make popcorn at the farmer. With both the honey and corn cobs, you can make the popcorn, while I already think the grilled yucca fruit is the absolute best one to make with the yucca we've picked up earlier. There is another resource which requires processing, which is the leather. So we're gonna need dried fur for that, ammonia glands, as well as the salt. Thank God I already have plenty of the dried fur, which we talked about in a previous video. Same counts for the ammonia gland, only the salt is something I'm still missing. I already covered salt in my previous guide, but why not quickly talk about it as well? Because it's super easy to pick up once you have that glider and access to different quick travel. So what you want to do is make your way to the very start of the world, to the Cinder Vault quick travel, and then fly to this specific watchtower or ruins northeast of it. Also northeast of Long Keep, as this is where you can take out your pickaxe and swing against the rocks to basically pick up the salt. You will find a ton of this resource if you do this for a couple seconds. I mean, look at that. We constantly get 6 every time we do so, which I think is the absolute best place to farm for salt early, mid-game and late game, because the salt mine a little bit to the northwest of this place, well, is in shrouded territory, which is pretty annoying as you won't be able to quickly travel back to your base from it. Well, now this becomes no problemo. So we can get back to the tanning station, throw in that salt. We picked up like over 100 in that short amount of time, so GG. So yeah, once you have access to the leather, this is how you can make the padding for all the armor sets, which you can find right here as well, which require the padding, the skills, the lapis, different types of fabric basically, but they all look pretty amazing. We've got Warlock set, the Archmage set, the Magician hat, all sorts of pretty cool sets you can get your hands on. At the blacksmith, we also have the soldier gear, the warden set, the rogue set. I think they're all pretty epic, especially the guardian, which makes you look a little bit like a gladiator. Be sure to use your fireplace to grill all the different types of snacks you came across during your adventures, as this will make processing food a lot easier. Wow, that was a lot of resources we talked about today, but here you go. Everything you need to know to get ready for Enshrouded. If you have any more questions, suggestions, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. And of course, hit that like button to support the channel and help other people find this guide. If you're new to the channel, don't hesitate to subscribe. It's entirely free and a lot more is coming your way. Right now, though, it's 4 AM out, so be sure to check out my other guides, or I'll see you in the next one. Have an awesome day. Peace.